Having lived in Las Vegas since 2012, I want to make this video talking about, after living here for a while, some of the things that can either change you or have an impact on you, or just things that you can kind of like expect to happen after you move here. So speaking of moving here, if you guys do not know, I'm a licensed real estate agent and mortgage loan officer. So if you need help with one or both of those in the process, there'll be a QR code on screen or a link that you can use below to get help. So last year I was a part of a deal that was $450,000 and one that was just over $2 million. So whether you're condo, townhome, single family home, or luxury mansion, I can help you. So having lived here for, man, over a dozen years now in Las Vegas, there's some things that, are gonna be unique to living here in Vegas that, depending on where you're from, some of these are gonna be new to you. Some of these are gonna be things that you're just other locals will be able to relate to. I'm sure down in the comments, they'll help you guys and share some of these thoughts with you. So, when you live here, the first one I'll talk about that can change, or the things you may not experience when you move to most other places in the country, you're gonna get good at saying no. And what do I mean? So when you move here, this is a common joke among the locals, is you'll have people that you have not talked to in years hitting you up because they're coming to town, or even better, they're already here and they hit you up and expect you to like drop everything to come either hang out with them or go out with them or help them out with something, or whatever it is they're asking for you, they were asking of you to do for them. And because, when you live here, it's just different, right? When you come and visit, I mean, if you visit here and you've stayed off strip several times, and maybe you've stayed on longer trips, you've Airbnb'd out in town or something like that, you've probably seen more of the metro area, so you probably have a little bit better feel than the person who just comes here and they've only been to like the strip and downtown. That's a different animal. So people who, if all they know is the strip and downtown, they know you've moved to Vegas, they might hit you up and just think your life is your life is just a 24/7 vacation in Las Vegas, which it's not, okay? I'm hanging out at the park today. It's a beautiful, gorgeous Southern Nevada day. Families are out here playing, having fun, people out walking the dog, living like normal day-to-day life, which is what we do here in Las Vegas when you live here. So that's something that you're gonna face when you move here probably, is you're gonna have people hitting you up because they're like, oh, hey, hey, can you hook me up, right? If you're working at a hotel, they're probably gonna ask you for free rooms. If you work at a restaurant, probably gonna ask you for free food. If you're a driver, they're probably gonna ask you, a limo or party bus and give us like a free ride for stuff, right? Or like me, I work in the club scene, get people to hit me up. Can you help us skip the line here? Get us bottle service, get us on the guest list. And then, sometimes you set people up like more than once and they flake every time. So after a while, you're just like, all right, forget it, not helping you anymore. So you're gonna get that kind of thing when you live here, right? You live in a vacation spot. People are gonna think like your life's vacation. If you work in hospitality, it's probably even worse because they expect you to be able to like hook them up or connect them to people. So you're gonna get some of that. That's one of the things that you'll notice when you move here. I saw some jokes about that, I think, after I first moved here, but it happened to me. People I hadn't talked to in years just reaching out of the blue. Another thing I'll tell you about, this is one of the cooler things. This is really gonna depend on where you're coming from. Okay, if you come here from like a big congested city, you'll probably find life more peaceful here. Now it sounds counterintuitive because people think obviously of Vegas as like crazy party place, right? Casinos and gambling and clubs and drinking and all that sort of stuff. But when you live here, it's oftentimes rather peaceful. When you get away from that stuff, then there's a lot of it is just like, living out in suburban areas, like in other large metro areas. It's not quite as crazy. It's not quite as chaotic. There's plenty of quiet neighborhoods here all around the Vegas Valley. If you want to live 20 or 30 minutes away from the strip and away from downtown, away from all the action, so it's close enough that it's there when you want it, or visitors or family come to town, you can go there, cool. But aside from that, you can have your peace and quiet. So that's one of the things that you'll probably find, especially if you come here from a major city. Like, we have traffic, but we don't have traffic like LA or the San Francisco Bay Area, right? I moved here from California. So we don't have traffic like in New York, right? Or a lot of these other major cities. Also, our cost of living here is lower than a lot of other big cities. Last I saw a couple years ago, I think it was the top 30 or 50 cities in the US by population, and cost of living index, Vegas was right about in the middle. Okay, so definitely cheaper than Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Miami, New York, Seattle, Portland. A little more expensive than, or not quite as expensive as like Phoenix, but it's still, for the price you pay for what you get compared to so many other large metro areas, it's pretty good. A lot of people are familiar or know that we already have no state income tax. That's a big one here. So, and also we have some of the lowest property taxes in the country. That's a lesser known one. Typically you'll see Nevada ranked about 4th when it comes to having the lowest property taxes in the country, because so much of our revenue comes from sales tax from the tourists, especially who come and visit here. Another thing that's more peaceful here is actually our airport. For how big it is, or how many people come through here every single year, it operates pretty smoothly. So I've flown East Coast, West Coast. I've been to different countries throughout my life. And you know, the airport here in Las Vegas does run pretty smoothly compared to like being at LAX or New Jersey or some of those places. So, you know, I remember someone moving here from LA County years ago, and I remember talking to him after he was getting ready to move here, talked to him after he'd gotten here, and then his wife had to fly back to LA, I think like only 2 months after them living here. And he's like, hey man, he goes, how early is she gonna have to get to the airport? Because LAX, dude, he's like, we get there at least 3 hours early. I said, no, you're not gonna have to get there that early, especially if she has no like luggage she's checking in, you know, just doing a quick flight back to SoCal. I said, dude, 2 hours and you should be just fine. And later he goes, dude, you were right, like she got through pretty quickly. So our airport, I think, operates pretty efficiently, which is great if you're traveling, or great if you have people coming to see you and visit you here. So yes, less congested life. Certain things logistically are much easier. You're not sitting on traffic on the 405 like in California, or on the 101 or any of those for 2 hours on a Friday there and 2 hours back to get home. So that part is actually more relaxing and more peaceful. A lot of people probably wouldn't think of when they think of Las Vegas. Something else that you'll notice probably after you live here for a while is how you react to weather. All right, now this is for cold weather or hot weather, depending on where you come from. So if you move here from Wisconsin, or if you move here from Phoenix, you may have different reactions to the weather here. But when you go like back to where you're from, you might notice that you don't react to the weather in your old hometown the way you do before. So I remember specifically talking to a guy several years ago from Michigan. So he moved here from Michigan. He'd been in Vegas for I forget how many years. But we were talking about this, and he said, yeah, when he goes back to Michigan during the winter for like Christmas and sees his family, how much he struggles to handle the cold there because he's not used to it anymore. Right when he first moved here, the cold here was nothing, right? Because we do get below freezing in the wintertime, usually at night, right? So usually at nighttime, we'll get below freezing, especially when the wind picks up. Ooh. So it does get cold here. Right now, of course, if you're coming from Canada, you might think, right, your perspective of cold is going to be different, which it is. But you're going to notice the weather here when you live here a while and you're going to go back to your hometown, you're probably going to react differently to the weather when you go back there to visit. One thing that this is pretty unique to Las Vegas is when you do travel to other places around the US, you will realize how boring a lot of other places are compared to Vegas. It's probably, I mean, it's Las Vegas, right? We have so much to do here 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Even though after COVID, certain things are not open 24/7 like they used to be, we still have so many more options in so many other places in the US. I mean, lots of places, you know, smaller towns, rural towns across the country, you know, it's like everything closed at like 9 p.m., right? Bars close 2 a.m., or they have last call. California, remember 2 a.m., no more serving alcohol until 6 a.m. You know, sometimes clubs would stay open after that, but there was no more alcohol allowed to be served. We don't have last call here. You know, other places where you can't buy alcohol on Sundays, or limitations on buying it on certain days. I had a coworker from Kentucky one time years ago. I was talking about dry counties. I'm like, the hell's a dry county? She talked about dry counties, moist counties, wet counties. Like, I never heard of that until I lived here. And I remember thinking like, wow, like that's how it is, like down there. That's how it is in some other parts of the country. But here in Vegas, nah, that alcohol flows 24/7. So it's just different here, right? So some other places you go to, you're gonna realize that like you just can't get a lot of the same things, like going out, running and getting your groceries, you know, at midnight if you want, or certain things, errands you could run at 2 a.m. Like I used to do years ago when I first moved here. I worked graveyard hours, so I'd go grocery shop at 2 in the morning. That's when I'd often do it, because I was, even on my days off, I kept my graveyard schedule. And there's still places to go out and eat, and activities and things you could do at 2 in the morning. So, you know, that is something that is definitely unique to Vegas that will be different when you get it. It'll take some time to adjust to when you get here. Another thing I'll say is here in Vegas, you know, depending on what age you are when you move here, this could apply to any age, but it can help you grow up. Okay, especially if you move here by yourself. So I moved here by myself right after college. So it was right after grad school. And I did not even go to my grad school graduation. I actually skipped it and just said, peace, see you later, hit the road, drove from California to Las Vegas and started my new life. So when you take a jump like that, you know, whether you're single, whether you're a couple, whether you're 25 or 55, you know, you're going to face a certain level of uncertainty and a certain level of, you know, maybe a little bit of fear with it, because you're going to do something different. You're doing something new. You're going to, even if you've moved a lot, you're moving to a place you're not familiar with. So doing that, if you're going to do it and make the jump, you know, particularly by yourself, you're going to see, you may be in a situation where you can really, you only have yourself to rely on. So particularly if you're going to come here, like when you're younger, like right out of college, like I did, you know, you're probably going to see how well you grow up and do well on your own by yourself. I moved here with no family. I had no real major connections when I moved here. I mean, I asked people in California if they knew some people in Vegas, so I was able to talk to a few people and get some help before I moved here. But I had no strong connections here. I had no prior experience here other than coming twice on vacation when I was like a little kid. That was it. Like, that was all I had before I moved here. So a lot of other people have moved here under similar situations. So other people have done it before, and you can do it as well. Now, in addition to that, what I will say is how well you handle certain struggles particularly will be something you'll see here too. Now, this is probably more so, this would be for single people for sure, but also for couples. And I wanted to bring this up because over the years, I've helped, I don't know how many different couples move here that have watched my videos and that sort of thing. I've met, you know, numerous couples in person. And I remember years ago, telling me when they moved here, they'd been here for 6 months and they thought like most of the people they met here were weird, or they were like struggling to make friends. And I don't know how much work they actually did to go out and make friends, or if they joined any kind of groups or in their social circle, whether that be in their religious organization, if they had kids going to school, or in their or in the workplace, you know, getting to make kind of like friends with their coworkers. I don't know how much effort they put into that. But, you know, if you come here as a couple, it's going to be helpful that you have each other to rely on. Now, if you come here as a couple, you definitely want to be in a strong place, because I've seen this before with numerous couples who moved here and wound up breaking up after a certain point where they were either boyfriend, girlfriend for a long time, or they were engaged and they wound up breaking up. And then, you know, now they're both like on their own here separately in the Las Vegas area. And I remember share a story years ago from when I was working the club scene. There was a guy, I guess, who came to the club one night. He was like a celebrity. He was in werewolf, like those werewolf TV shows or movies or something. And like, yeah, some of like the women who worked there were like total starry-eyed, starstruck. One particularly was fangirling super hard. She came out to the front to talk to like this other woman on our staff about this guy. She was just huge eyes. She was so excited. She was fangirling hard. She said she like grabbed his hand and like tried to put it to like smack her on the ass. He was kind of like hesitant. It's like, yeah, because, you know, like that's not something that happens. Like most women don't grab a guy's ass and like have him like smack, you know, or no, most women don't grab a guy's hand to like go and smack her on the ass. So, you know, the guy's obviously kind of hesitant, but she was super starstruck. And I remember she said this to the other woman who's our coworker. She was like, well, if it's a celebrity, it doesn't count, right? And I remember thinking, ooh, like, oh, that's not a good one. And this woman had a boyfriend she moved here with. They'd been together for years. And then they eventually later wound up breaking up. She said he ended up actually cheating on her, but now she was by herself, you know, separate from him in Las Vegas. I think they'd been here less than 2 years, I would say for sure. But I think it might have been as short as a year. So they're having struggles like as they were moving here and early on when they were here that she would share. And then obviously, you know, things went south. They broke up, and then that's just one story of others I've heard of, or I've known of couples to have, and others that have shared with me. So if you are a couple, you want to move here on strong ground, okay? Because that's going to be helpful that you have each other to rely on, because it's probably a tough place for a lot of people to break up. Because if you break up here when you're brand new to town, you don't have a lot of connections, you don't know a lot of people, you know, and it's obviously a tough time if you go through something like that in a brand new city where you don't know anybody. So next thing I'll say is you may get into some new activities. So this is something that's, you know, anywhere you go to, different cities are gonna have different cultures, right? So moving here to Las Vegas, you know, a lot of people think of just the gambling and the nightlife, and that's what I thought of too when I moved here. You know, I thought Vegas was just like miles and miles of empty desert. I didn't realize it was surrounded by all these beautiful mountains. So it wasn't until I moved here that I noticed a lot of people are into hiking, a lot of people are into outdoor life here, mountain biking, things like that. Some of you may get into like firearms. Like I grew up, you know, in California, we did not have any firearms in our home when I was growing up as a kid. Ironically, my parents, each of them did in their home growing up, but in our home we did not. So, you know, coming here to Nevada and getting a CCW, learning about that whole process, because when I was living in California, You know, some counties you could get that, but a lot of counties, especially like LA, Bay Area, you know, those counties, it was like, no, it didn't matter. You were getting denied almost no matter what if you were in one of those counties. We're here in Nevada, it's a completely different story. I remember the first time I saw someone open carry a handgun here. I had heard of that, but had never seen it in California. So you may get into activities like that. Fitness is a big one here, going along with the outdoor life and just active lifestyle in general. Lots of people here, I think part of it's for their jobs, but lots of people here are really into like bodybuilding, fitness training, fitness competitions. So I think part of it is because of the workplace. Lots of people, if you're like a bottle server, you know, if you're a nightclub host, if you're doing things or anything where you're interacting with a lot of, you know, clientele, a lot of travelers, lots of visitors, you know, it helps if you look fit, you present yourself well, and that's a big thing for a lot of people here as part of their job in Las Vegas. So you'll notice that here, quite a few people are really into fitness. You'll see quite a few people who go to work who meal prep. I've done that for years, so plenty of people who have their jobs, whether they're a cocktail server or whether they're a security guard, they'll come to work with their bag that they meal prep. It's very, very common here, more common than I saw back when I was living in California. So those are some of the things I want to share with you guys about living here in Vegas, certain impacts it may have on you, you know, some of the pros and cons or the consequences of living here. So I ultimately like it. I think it's a great place to live. I don't plan to go anywhere else anytime soon, if anyone's wondering. But if you guys are looking for help moving here, again, there'll be the QR code up here. I'll have a link below. You guys can reach out, be happy to help you, whether you're looking to buy a $180,000 condo or a multi-million-dollar mansion. I'm willing and happy to help. So thanks for watching.